Good morning, beautiful people of America. How did you guys sleep last night? Did you sleep well? I'm happy you slept well. And if you didn't, I bet you slept better than we did last night. Let's talk about last night, okay? As you know, we got to the shelter. I didn't do the last video because I was pissed off. Someone had their tent set up in the shelter. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Granted, they were the first people there, which is fine. Me and Casey/Onesie show up in the rain, and they're like, "Oh, are you staying here?" We're like, "Yeah." But then there was a man there, standing there under the roof, waiting for the rain to stop. And I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, are you waiting for the rain to stop?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna set up my tent because there's no room in the shelter." The shelter's supposed to fit 8 people, and there were only 4 people in there. So I look at them and I go, "Well, I'm sure they wouldn't mind taking down their tent if you want to sleep in here." And the lady goes, "Oh, we'll figure it out." So the guy's still waiting, and then he finally goes to set up because the rain kind of stopped. And then these 3 ladies show up, soaked from the head to the foot. And they come over and they're like, "Is there any room?" I said, "Yeah, there's room, but there's a tent in here." And they just go, "Oh." And I say out loud again, "But I'm pretty sure these people wouldn't mind taking down their tent if you want to stay in here." They don't say anything that time. So finally, the people who own the tent walked away, and I said to the ladies, I was like, "I'm sorry, you guys should be able to sleep in here. It fits 8 people. And they won't take their tent down, and that's bull crap." And they're like, "Yeah, that is very rude." So the ladies, they go to set up their tent. Nobody wants to set up a tent after it rained. It's wet, it's just miserable. You want to go in a shelter, that's what the shelters are for. And then I'm smoking a cigarette. And this lady, who owns the tent, has the audacity to look at me and go, "Could you please move? I'm allergic to cigarettes." I'm just looking at her. And she goes, "They give me a headache." So I didn't feel like arguing, so I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I sat on a rock, I took 2 or 3 drags, and I was like, "Forget this. I'm not sitting out here." They didn't move their tent for the people who were soaking wet. So I got up and I sat back in the shelter. About an hour later, I light up another one. And she's like, she looks right at me, she goes, "Again with the cigarettes? Can you please?" And I cut her off. I said, "No." I was like, "It's cold out there. I'm in my quilt. I'm not moving." And she's like, "But I asked you nicely." I said, "Yes, you did. I'm kindly saying no." I said, it's too cold." And she's like, "Well, it gives me a headache, and this is a public space. There should be rules for you not to smoke cigarettes in here." I said, "Well, when you find a rule, you let me know." And she goes, "You're really gonna be that rude?" And I said, "Yeah, just like you guys didn't want to take down the tent for those ladies." She starts getting loud with me, and she's like, "They didn't ask me. They never asked me to move my tent." And I'm like, "They didn't have to ask you, lady. They clearly made it known that they wanted to come in the shelter." She's like, "Well, they never asked me." I'm like, "Listen, I'm not arguing with you, but you knew those people wanted to sleep in the shelter, and you decided to not say anything and wait for someone to ask you, which is very rude. Nobody's gonna ask you to move your tent. They're all too nice." The rest of the night was very quiet. I got back at them anyway. I fart a lot while I sleep, so I was farting a bunch, and the guy wakes up and he's like, "Freaking elephant. All this farting, waking me up." And I just said out loud, "Yep, if she would have been nice enough to move her tent, then yes, I would have gone out and smoked cigarettes outside of the shelter. No problem. But you don't deserve my kindness, lady. You didn't do anything for those people." There's my rant. Anyway, today's plan, we're either doing 14.5 or 15.5. It's not raining today, but it is very, very cold, so we're trying to just stay moving all day. But let's get this let's get this day rolling. I have to pee really bad. And most importantly, even though I almost had a huge argument with some German lady last night, it's gonna be a beautiful day. that was another hut. I think the Zealand hut, and it was open. First hut to be open. Casey/Onesie got a quesadilla and hot coffee, real coffee. So 6-mile climb, and once we get to the top, we only have like 3 miles left for the day. Ah. We just had some delicious lunch at the Galehead Hut. Someone told us it was open. It was not open, but there was a really pretty view, and the sun came out to play for like 5 minutes. Casey/Onesie has had an upset stomach since the Zealand Hut. She felt like she was gonna puke. She tried making herself puke, it just didn't work. So she's feeling a little better now. Let's make it to the shelter so we can get warm and put on our dry clothes. And Casey just fell. Are you okay? We made it to the shelter. I am currently sitting in the privy, so I'm not going to talk long. It stinks in here. 14.5 miles done. There's a lot of people at this shelter. It was the first caretaker we saw, and unfortunately we had to pay $10. But she was able to take cards at least. So we're going to eat some food and talk to these awesome people because they are way better than the people from last night. So have a good night. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.